the Hall of Famer Chris Carter. This is Nick Wright. It is a Friday morning here in New York City. Big plans this weekend. Things are happening. We made it to the end of the week. It's been a great week.
I'm glad you're feeling better. I had to turn my FP down. That voice is strong.
It's a little loud.
Professional.
Sorry, we'll bring it down a little bit.
And
I'm in a great mood.
Preemptive Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.
Yes.
Jenna Wolf.
Thank you.
To each
Danielle,
of our wives.
to Sue, of course.
To everyone out there, since we're not going to be on the air Sunday, Happy Mother's Day to everyone. My
That
wife,
is very nice.
this is the best Happy Mother's Day she'll be getting from me because on Mother's Day I will probably be in Boston watching a basketball game, but such is life. I think she'll understand.
Was that you
It's full of work.
was that you asking for permission, or was that you getting an apology?
This is a ask for forgiveness rather than permission situation.
It felt like that, Nick.
Yes. Chris Carter, you sign off on that, correct?
Yeah, happy Mother's Day, JC. You should be saying Happy Mother's Day to your mom.
Okay,
because
Sheila,
actually Danielle
I love
is not your mom.
Happy
Good
Mother's
point.
Day. Say happy
Mom, meet me in Boston. Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Good stuff right there. All right, speaking of Boston, if you weren't happy with the way the Eastern Conference Finals played out last year, fret not. We're doing it again this year. Same stage, same team, same superstar. Cavs have gone through 34 lineup changes with the only constant being LeBron James. Celtics have relied on 20-somethings with their stars Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward out, and their star being Al Horford. Here's Kevin Love on how we got there.
They have a lot of guys that can do a number of things, and guys that have really, really stepped up. And it's not just one player. It seems like, whether it's been a rookie, whether it's been, Rozier coming in and playing poor, Al Horford's playing out of his mind. It's been a lot of guys, and that's just three of the many. Jaylen Brown too. It's been a lot of guys that have played at a high level. So. In some ways it could be looked at as a surprise, but I just think both teams stepped up to their level of play, and, both teams have done that.
Okay, so all that is true. That being said, CC, should the Cavs be worried about the Celtics in Game 1 in Boston where they play lights out?
Yeah, I would be concerned, especially in a series like this where the momentum is going to shift a couple times. The Cavs coming off a dominant performance against Toronto. They've dominated the East. And I think that the psyche that they have against Toronto is very similar to what they had against Boston. Now, I just want to see if that first game, which we were able to see in Toronto, in Cleveland, how critical that game was. Toronto has a chance to win it in regulation, point-blank range, not able to get a bucket, a lot like Boston was able to stop Philadelphia and Joel Embiid from scoring late in game number 4. So that right there, I believe, turned the tide. I believe Cleveland still would have won that Toronto series. But that game going into overtime and LeBron and the Cavs ripping the heart out of the Raptors, that proceeded afterwards. So that game number 1, I believe, is very, very critical. It's critical not only for Cleveland that they show their dominance over this young team, but also for a young Boston team that knows that they play different on the road. They know it's important against LeBron not to lose home court advantage. You'd much rather lose it later in the series, maybe in Game 5. But you don't want to lose it in Game 1 or 2, especially in Game number 1.
Particularly Game 1. If they lose it in Game 2, it just feels different. It feels different than in the first game of the series, the Cavs take home court.
Yeah, I think they still have more confidence if it's 1-1 going to Cleveland that we could win one game
Why
there.
is that? Is it just a deflating blow?
It's a deflating blow. It is, and we're going to talk about the Rockets Warriors series in a moment. It's why Game 1 is so critical for Houston. Those 65 wins can go out the window in the first, 48 minutes.
Also, you're calculating in the dominance and the experience of the other teams being Golden State and Cleveland.
Right. Listen, when you talk about LeBron's dominance over Boston, that's a real thing now. We made a big deal out of the fact that LeBron's winning streak against the Raptors in the playoffs going into this series, he had won 6 straight. He had won 3 consecutive games in Toronto. It obviously turned into 5, that being playoff games. Well, LeBron James against the Celtics in Boston has won 6 in a row. LeBron James against the Celtics anywhere in the playoffs. That was in the playoffs as well. He's won 10 of 11. The Celtics' best player, you said Al Horford. Al Horford, this is remarkable. Al Horford has played 17 playoff games against LeBron James. He's 1-16. Al Horford is 1-16.
That's almost impossible.
It's almost impossible. It was 3 straight sweeps, and then last year when they took them to 5. Last year's Game 3 was the first time in 15 chances an Al Horford team has beaten a LeBron team. So there is that
question
type of
for
history.
you, too. Al Horford, how many times was he a higher seed in the...
Absolutely. So they were the 1 seed in Atlanta and got swept. They were the 1 seed last year in Boston and lost in 5. The 2 previous sweeps, he was the lower seed. But the last 2 times, he's been on the 1 seed and gotten swept and then lost in 5. This time, obviously, he's on the 2 seed, but still higher than the Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron's team. So that mental edge, I think, is real. What I think Boston has going for it is 2 things. And you and I disagree slightly on this. I think they have bodies to throw at LeBron. I think Marcus Morris. I think Jaylen Brown. I think, oddly, Semi Ojeleye is going to play a role because he's built like an NFL tight end. We saw Lance Stevenson be a pest. I think Marcus Smart is a rich man's Lance Stevenson. I think Marcus Smart is a better version of what Lance Stevenson tries to be. So you have people you can throw at LeBron, and the other edge they have, Jenna, is Brad Stevens can look at that Indiana series and say, well, go ahead.
I was just going to say the same thing. Do what they did against the Pacers and not the Raptors. Go ahead and follow that blueprint out and see how the Pacers took them to 7 games as opposed to what happened with Toronto.
And see, that's about not so much what the Pacers did against LeBron, but how the Pacers defended the others compared to how the Raptors defended the others. Brad Stevens now has an 11-game blueprint, what not to do, what to do to make sure Love and JR don't get off.
Right. I think the only thing that's hard to duplicate, it's hard to duplicate the lack of confidence that Cleveland had, or lack of confidence from the end of the season into that first series. The team that's playing against Boston, Kevin Love, JR, Kyle Korver, they're all different. George Hill, they're all different players, either confidence-wise or because they've played some actual minutes together. So that's what I do believe. I do understand as far as the multiples they can throw them. So you mentioned 4 names that they can throw at LeBron. Even though LeBron has decisive advantage as far as height, speed, weight over all those guys, I just don't think any of those are adequate. I don't believe if you put Marcus Smart on LeBron, you're just wasting your time. And also, you're going to have to double team him. If you think they start double teaming Joel Embiid a lot in the last game, they go into this knowing that LeBron can dominate compared to let's play it head up with Joel Embiid. So I think Brad Stevens will be more apt to double LeBron early. So the scheme would have to be just a little bit different.
Is there something to be said for the fact that this Boston team just feels like it doesn't care? Like they came out of this Sixers series knowing that the Sixers were long and tall and fast and had these superstars and had tons of momentum coming into the postseason, played their game kind of heads down, did their thing, not a ton of showboating, and sort of sailed through that series.
When you say don't care, you mean they're not intimidated?
The same way Toronto kept saying, you know what, in the end, LeBron was in our head. In the end, the record that LeBron and the Cavs had against us, that sort of creeped in. Well, LeBron has that record against the Celtics. Does it feel like the Celtics aren't as fazed by it as the Raptors were?
Well, this is what the Celtics have they can fall back on. Game number 1, first few minutes of the game, their all-star, they just acquired Gordon Hayward. He goes down. 2/3 of the season going through, not going to be available for the playoffs. Kyrie Irving, he goes down. So they have a monumental win over Philadelphia, who people were predicting would represent the East in the finals if LeBron and the Cavs didn't make it. So they have that to fall back on. All right? Toronto, what excuse did they, what did they have?
And Toronto's 2 stars, while Toronto had a new bench this year, Lowry and DeRozan had seen all the ghosts of LeBron. Jason Tatum was in college last year.
Yes.
Jaylen Brown was just a supporting actor at best last year. Now, Al Horford's got to deal with it, but those other 2 guys don't so much. Where I think Cleveland, though, has the decisive edge, and they are the only team, one of the only team in the East I'd be saying this about, is Boston. We saw Game 1 against Milwaukee, Games 3 and 5 against Philly. They have this unrelenting belief. If it is close late, that is our basketball game. They have won, I believe, 16 games this year where at some point they trailed by 15 points. They are the best closing team in the league. That is due to the execution of the players and the schemes of the coach. Well, they're going up against a guy who right now appears to be playing at a level as the greatest closers in NBA history. Like, no one right now has more confidence late in a game than that guy, than LeBron James. So one place that Boston has had an edge on Giannis in Milwaukee, Embiid and Simmons in Philly, they are not going to have the edge against the Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't believe so. I think this is Personally, I think it's odd. I think all these games are close, but I also think it's a short series. Like, I don't think the Cavs are positioned to blow the Celtics out a bunch, but I don't think the Celtics are positioned to win a bunch of games in this series.
Yeah, I believe the home court advantage plays a part in it. Boston's players play better at home, and they win a couple games.
They haven't lost at home all playoffs.
Happy Mother's Day, Danielle. Nick's going to be at the game this weekend. There, we just dropped it on you. I'll hang out with you. Coming up, let's talk about what's going on out west. Is Game 1 already a must-win for the Rockets over the Warriors? That's next. First things first.
This time of year brings us two things, graduations and Father's Day, and the gifts that go along with them. Before you buy Dad another tie or that grad balloon that's just going to float away, ask yourself this: does my dad or my grad like wings or sports, or better yet, both? If the answer is yes, then get them a Buffalo Wild Wings gift card. Right now, if you purchase $30 worth or more in store or online, they'll give you a $5 bonus to keep for yourself. That's a gift that gives back. How generous of you. Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, the matchup we all anticipated out west. The one we all sort of knew we'd get. The one that'll make us East Coasters stay up way past our bedtimes. It is the Warriors. It is the Rockets. And it is Monday night. The Rockets haven't won a championship since 1995. Married with Children was still on TV. The Warriors have won 2 in the last 3 years. Golden State's head coach Steve Kerr is aware of the advantage, experience, and hardware that his team has.
I like where we are. Our guys have rings. That's a good position to be in. To me, the hardest championship is the first one, as an individual player and as a team, because you don't know. You don't quite know if you can do it. Once you get the first one, there's a little bit of house money, but you want it again because it's an unbelievable feeling. So I like our position. We're going to go in here knowing we're the defending champs, knowing we've got a couple championships here the last few years. Let's go get another one.
So we just talked about how important it is for the Cavs to win that first game in Boston. How important is it for the Rockets to get off on the right foot and win Game 1 against the Warriors?
Critically, wildly important. I have picked the Rockets to win this series for the last few months. I've said I believe the Rockets are the best team in the NBA. I think that their 50-5 record with Harden, CP3, and Capella playing is remarkable. I think the 65 wins matter, but almost all of that goes out the window if you lose Game 1. You lose Game 1, you might as well have won 55 games because you're giving home court to Golden State. And more critically than giving home court to Golden State, you are giving them the mental edge in the series where your season is on the line in Game 2. So while I'm not going to call it a must-win where if they don't win, the series is over, but it's as close to a must-win, in my eyes, for Houston as Game 1 can be. I think Golden State could win the series while losing Game 1. I think it is very hard to see a path for Houston to win the series if they lose Game 1.
Yeah, and there's no comparison Game 1 in the East and what Boston, the pressure they have, which is real, compared to the pressure that Houston has as the number 1 seed, winning 65 games because of Boston. Man, you know what Boston's looking forward to? This young team with the 2 stars they have.
Yeah.
That's what they're looking forward to. So regardless of what happens game number 1, regardless of what happens game number 2, but in Houston, it could be they could be in a must-win situation in game number 2. 65 wins, totally out, home court advantage, already lost, and I believe the wild card is Steve Kerr. The reason why he keeps talking about these championships, because that's what he's telling to the team. And that's an actual strategy, just like playing defense, just like how they're going to move the ball. And the strategy is in crunch time, we have this feeling of winning more than they do. Their coach, nothing but disappointment. Chris Paul, first time being in a final. James Harden has been to a final, but is not a champion. So I heard Steve Kerr. And I believe that is the constant theme that Golden State is going to have as they go through this series, even if they were to get behind a game or 2. They're trying to rely on their championship pedigree and their championship experience.
And Golden State has seen in the toughest series they've ever had other than the finals, they've been down 3-1 in the series and came back. Everyone pokes says, oh, you blew a 3-1 lead in the finals, and they did. But that was after overcoming a 3-1 lead, and that was before they added Kevin Durant. That was against Kevin Durant.
But Kevin Durant has the experience on the other side, too.
Exactly right. the other subtext of this series to me is fair or not, as brilliant, and I don't use that word lightly, as brilliant as James Harden has been in the last 4 regular seasons, this series will be a referendum on him, on his style, and on him as a champion-level player.
A question for you. Is it similar to what KD, when he makes the decision, when they get in the finals last year against LeBron? Is it similar to that?
Listen, I would say it's similar in that you're going to get the brunt of the blame if you don't pull it off. But the difference is, people didn't doubt, how good is KD really? And I still hear that with Harden. Harden's going to win the MVP, and there is still a segment of NBA fans that feel like this guy does it through bait and switch. He does it by tricking the refs. He does it with herky-jerky stuff. He does it with not just raw, great basketball skill. Now, I don't subscribe to that. I think he's a brilliant passer. I think he's one of the best step-back shooters I've ever seen. And I think his ability to draw fouls is a skill.
Yes.
But if Harden is not brilliant in this series, the Rockets can't win. And if he's mediocre in this series, they can't keep it close. And that will, if he's not great in this series, C and Jenna, it won't matter what he does in any regular season moving forward. He will never be in the MVP discussion again because people will hold this against him. Like, if people will say, okay, yeah, but who cares? Like, this is fair or not, and I don't know if it's totally fair, will be a referendum on James Harden.
You say that you still feel that the Rockets can beat the Warriors if Harden plays great.
Yes.
You have to beat them 4 times. Like, you have to be great, really, really great to combat those 4 guys in the Warriors lineup 4 different times. And game 1, you think that can give them enough confidence? Because this is a Warriors team that you don't want to give them any momentum because you know what they can do with it.
Absolutely. Though it's why I think game 1 is so important. But why do I think James Harden can be great over the course of the series? Because I've seen him be great over the course of 4 years. I've seen him be statistically the best player in the league this year. I believe in him. Maybe I'll look foolish for it. I believe in Chris Paul, and I think Clint Capella is one of the more underrated players in the league.
Yeah, I think it's a great matchup. I think the styles, and it's also, you gave me some great intel on this. It's also 2 teams that really believe in basketball analytics. And now how they play and how they take shots and stuff is totally different. Their philosophies are totally different. But the concept of shooting threes, playing at a pace, and the spacing of the court are very, very similar. But of late, Nick, this is not like me. I'm starting to like Golden State.
I knew it. I felt it the other day.
I'm starting to understand the championships and seeing how KD, there is no answer to KD, you know, with Clay. So I'm saying right now, I'm not making a prediction, but the Golden State and the championship is starting to rub off.
I felt it coming. I felt it coming the moment C.J. McCollum was out here the first day, and I said I got the Rockets in 7, and he was shocked. He was like, hold on. You don't just think they can win, you think they will win. And the more people you talk to around the league, it almost feels like people would be more shocked by Houston winning this series than by the Celtics beating the Cavs. That even though Vegas doesn't say it'd be the bigger upset, feels like people around the league think it will take a disaster for Golden State, an injury in the series.
People around the league do have a lot of confidence in the Warriors.
People around the league...
And they've gotten to me.
Yeah, I saw that coming, and so I get that. And you might be proven out correct on this. Listen, sometimes I'm a slave to history to a degree. The 65 wins really matters. You don't win that. That's a number that has been a key number in NBA history. The 50-5 matters to me, and the home court. We saw Boston win game Series 1 and I think Series 2 in large part because they had home court. I think the home court matters. Now, if we get here Tuesday and the Warriors blew them out, I'm going to feel like a fool.
20 teams have won 65 teams in the regular season.
And 15 of them won the title.
And 15 of them won the title.
Yep. Won the title. Not even, forget make the finals, win the title.
It's a good number to keep
I knew this was coming. I knew it.
Set you up. Coming up, one NBA superstar looks like he's heading to a new team. And another is staying put. We're going to sort it all out next. On First Things First. Some stories to start your morning. Cowboys CEO Stephen Jones yesterday said he just wants Dak Prescott to go out and be MVP this year. No problem. Way to temper expectations, Stephen Jones. Love exactly where the bar is. CeCe, what do you think of what Jones said?
I like the expectations, but you did everything but get him some talent. Since you're the general manager, I need some wide receivers. I need some guys to make it do what it do, Stephen. You can't be just putting those kind of expectations out there, and I got no frontline receivers. Come on, bro.
And Dak Prescott doesn't have a great chance of being MVP of his own team, much less the league. Like, I love setting a bar high, but that's setting a bar so high you're going to end up limboing way under it. I don't see anything close to that from Dak this year.
Zeke for MVP.
Yeah, but that's a more likely scenario.
On to Nick Wright's Kansas City Chiefs. Second-year quarterback Pat Mahomes came out and said that he and Kareem Hunt can have a, quote, great dynasty with the Chiefs. Boy, everyone's got some high expectations coming into this season. Chiefs have not been to the Super Bowl since 1970, so... Nick, what are realistic expectations?
Mahomes, I know you're a young man. Let me give you a very quick history lesson. This Kansas City Chiefs team, a dynasty. We haven't been to a conference championship game since Joe Montana was our quarterback. We've won one playoff game in 24 years. Let's pump the brakes on dynasty and just how about we don't blow 3 touchdown leads to the Titans? Let's work on that, please.
What about just some basic goals? I want to win my division. I want to be a competent starter. One day I want to make the Pro Bowl. One day I want to be the best quarterback in my division. Just some small stuff.
Baby
all
steps.
These rings and everything. Man, all these kids are dreaming big.
Dreaming real big.
Baby steps. AP, Adrian Peterson spent the first 10 seasons of his career with the Vikings. Last season, he spent time with the Saints and the Cardinals. Now he says his neck is completely healthy and he still wants to play football. CZ, can Adrian Peterson still contribute to an NFL team?
Well, he's a freak athlete, but make a contribution. The Nick kind of convinced me last year. I thought he had a little gas left in the tank, but I realized that, man, you know, that tank right there is really running on empty. The gauge, the fuel gauge, it ain't working.
Right.
I believe AP is done.
Yeah, I think he's done as well. First ballot Hall of Famer in my eyes.
Yes.
Maybe the single best running back of his generation. LaDainian Tomlinson might have something to say about that. But I don't think we'll see him in an NFL uniform ever again.
On to golf now. Yesterday, Tiger teed off at the Players' Championship. He was even par after his round 1, and is 6 strokes off the lead. Tiger says he's got to drive the ball a little bit better. Dustin Johnson and 5 others tied atop the leaderboard right now. CC, what did you make of Tiger's first-round performance?
Tiger is right. He's got to be able to drive the ball, Jenna, because this is the toughest field in golf. They have 49 of the top 50 golfers playing in this tournament. Yesterday, the scoring conditions were perfect. Very little wind. There was a temperature in the mid-80s. Anytime you have that on the PGA Tour, wind is their enemy. And when there's no wind, you're going to have a bunch of guys who be able to score and be able to go low. And when you're shooting only 1 or 2 under or even par, you are losing huge steps on the field. And there's so many guys capable now in the PGA Tour, the depth of the tour. There's so many guys that can shoot 65, 66 on a given day. So when you don't give your chance, when you don't give yourself chance by driving the ball straight, which on this Pete Dye golf course, he designed it. You have to be able to drive it straight to be able to score. Tiger, he's teeing off early this morning. He's got to shoot a low round. At the minimum, he's got to shoot at least 68 today.
Listen, he had a shot in this thing. After a rough opening 8 holes, he eagles the 9th. He then birdies the 12th, and you're like, oh, okay, he's at 1 under with 6 holes to play. If he can get it to 3 under, then we're talking about something. But he ends up going 2 over on the final 6 holes, so he's at even par, and it was all about the driving. There's over 160 golfers in this tournament. He's in the bottom 30 in driving accuracy, in the bottom 30 in shots gained off the tee. He was, once again, really good around the green. I'm not talking putting. I'm talking about if it's in the bunker, anything chipping, anything within 30 yards, he was really good. But that was the only part of his game yesterday that was really good.
One thing I did see, Jenna, I think you'll like this. Because Tiger's back, let's not forget, he's the only player in the history of the PGA Tour that's ever played with a fused lower back. But what you could see yesterday was Tiger's frame is a little bit thinner. So he's working out more. His regimen is starting to become a regular routine like he was into before. So seeing that means he hadn't had a setback. So he needs to be able to make it to the weekend because these all getting 4 rounds in is very important.
Question before we move on. We talked about yesterday that there's always one component missing to Tiger's games, and which has been the case the last few tournaments that he's played, either his long game or his short game or whatever it is. Do you watch him play, and you both watch him very closely, thinking, oh, he's putting it all together, or are you watching him play saying, I don't know if he's going to get back to where he was?
Go ahead.
I think he'll get back there because he's shown too many tremendous signs. When will he put together these 4 days? I believe this summer he's going to win. So I do believe the components are there. He is testing out new equipment and getting more familiar with that equipment.
One quick bright side for Tiger is Phil Mickelson talked about, since they're in the same group, potentially having a side wager of a lot of money, them two head-to-head. Well, Phil was 7 over yesterday. So Tiger, even without making the cut in this thing, might end up making about 7 figures on this tournament.
The
so
other
that's
bright
nice
spot
him.
for Tiger is that Phil is wearing a ridiculous shirt so that he, no matter what, wins the fashion battle as well as the ability to move your arms like this because he's not wearing a long sleeve.
Is that your golf
down.
swing, Jenna?
Maybe
that's why you're not a big golfer. Just saying.
All right, time to tell you that was so high in the register. Time to tell you what's happening in New Orleans. You know, the way I start every conversation with my parents who live in New York. Pelicans have a tough decision facing them this summer. Do you bring back Boogie Cousins, who missed most of the second half of the season with an Achilles injury, or do you bring back the team that helped them sweep the Blazers? Head coach Alvin Gentry said he wants Cousins back. Nick, what do you think? Should they bring Boogie back?
Yes. I thought that one of our producers, Deontay, made a really interesting point on this. That it's so hard, and it's a rarity for him, but I want to give him credit.
No, Deontay, we love you. I do.
It's hard to beat the Warriors out Warriorsing them. You're going to have to try to do it a different way.
Yeah, there's only so many shooters.
And there's only so many guys that can play at the pace, and there's only it's really hard to do it that way. And if you're the Pelicans and you have the best big man in the NBA in Anthony Davis, and then potentially also the best true center, the guy that can play the 5 and only the 5 in Boogie Cousins, if you can keep that together and force the Warriors to react to you, basically dictate that the Warriors cannot play the lineup they love to play so much, the small ball Draymond at 5, KD at the 4, maybe that's the path. Maybe that's the best way forward. And the other component of this is, assuming Boogie rehabs decent from his Achilles, he becomes an asset if it doesn't work. And if you just let him walk, well, how are you replacing that? If it doesn't work, you can trade him at the deadline. You can trade him next year. So I would definitely bring him back.
A lot of people are skeptical of 2 things with Boogie. And number 1 being his health, that Achilles. How will he respond? We haven't seen great results, guys coming back in the NBA from an Achilles. And the other thing is Boogie's overall attitude and his ability to be able to get along with the organization and his teammates. Now, no organization has gotten the feel or had Boogie acting the way he's acting now. His teammates, they understand him. I think that he's been far more mature. I think that he's gotten some help off the court, more so than before, not looking as if he had a problem in Sacramento. He's addressed some of those things. So his overall growth is greater than at any point in his career. And it reflected in what he was able to do on the court.
And I think, with respect to our friend Chris Broussard, who says he doesn't think Boogie's a winning player, I think it's unfair. And here's why. Dude was in Sacramento for 6 years. Sacramento, while he was there, they had a combined head coach, general manager, point guard, 17 different people. Think about that. 17 different head coach, GM, point guards. No one's going to be a winner there. He's only played 65 total games in New Orleans, and we saw this year he was at his best mentally and some of his best physically. Go ahead, Jenna.
Question. This Achilles injury, it's not a small injury. It's a big rehab process. Are we convinced he's going to come back full form after this?
We're not convinced of it, but with most injuries, you have to give the athlete benefit of the doubt with today's technology. But even if you don't know about the Achilles, you still have to sign him because you have to keep him as an asset compared to letting him walk. You much rather him, if he's going to be a slow recovery, recover in New Orleans. It's more beneficial for the team.
And I understand people's concern with the Achilles because particularly of his size, but it would have to be a disastrous recovery for him not to be some type of asset. Maybe he wouldn't be a blue chip asset, but you still get something more than letting him walk in free agency.
Right. Speaking of walking, onto our set. Someone bigger than all 3 of us combined. All-Pro and Super Bowl champ Lane Johnson is here.
Friend of the show.
Eagles.
Now, it's a legit.
Back here at First Things First, we're joined by Eagles Super Bowl champion and All-Pro tackle and guy with big personality and big guy and friend of the show,
What up,
Lane Johnson.
What's going on, guys?
How are you
What's
doing?
going on? Air 5.
High five. All right. Here we go.
I know they want me to stop with the high five. I can't let it go, Lane.
No, high five's good. In that setting, it was good. Well done, Jenna.
You just do you. You just do you.
Thank you, Lane. Come
Agreed.
join our morning meetings, because that's not where that's the mantra. Let's talk some football. Here's how NFL logic works, okay? Until a team wins next year's Super Bowl, the Philadelphia Eagles are the defending champs. That after they took down the Patriots for their first Lombardi trophy. Since then, well, head coach Doug Peterson got a contract extension, and the Eagles are favorites to reach the Super Bowl again. So, Lane, how hard is it going from underdogs last season, which you guys owned that? I mean, you owned it with the dog masks, you owned it with the chips on the shoulders, all of it, to favorites this season. It's a complete different mentality coming into the season.
Like you said, mentality, I think it's really about how you approach it. For me personally and our team, I don't want to go into a game scared. That's been our mentality, this whole past season. So really, he knows how it is. You approach it 1 week at a time and don't expect outcomes and just take it 1 week at a time. But as far as talent, we're loaded with talent again. Don't look too far ahead, and I think that's the key is just staying in the moment.
I think the talent, it helps against complacency because we're sitting here talking about the offensive line you guys have. You talk about Jason Peters, he's back. He's a mean guy. He wake up mean. Now, winning a Super Bowl without frontline players like him, now it adds to the depth. Man, you guys going to have some knockdown, drag-out battles in OTAs and summer camp, and you believe that will help the overall team makeup.
I think that it already helped this past season. I got Fletcher Cox and BG every day over me, so that's helping me get better. We had Haloti, we had Michael Bennett. And so every day at training camp is a war, and that's what it's going to be. So iron sharpens iron. We got a lot of great guys in the locker room. It's going to help us, and I think with the veteran leadership we have with Malcolm and some of those older guys, it'll help us move forward.
I want to go back to the underdog thing just for a moment because you guys were adamant about how much that was a part of your story, whether it was from you and the dog masks to Jason Kelce at the parade talking about this guy was not counted, this guy. Yeah. And so that now, though, is gone. You guys are the defending Super Bowl champions. It wasn't a one-year thing where it's like, yeah, but they lost this guy. No, you guys actually added to the team. So if the underdog thing was a legitimate psychological edge, how do you flip it to where not being the underdog anymore isn't a disadvantage?
Like I said, I think it all goes to veteran leadership. I know that we're loaded with talent. Can we repeat? Do we have enough talent to repeat? Yes. Does that mean that you're going to? No. It's all about being disciplined. And I think it's one thing we can learn from the Patriots, how they've been consistent, throughout their, tenure. And that's really what it is. It's taking it week to week, being serious week to week. We like to have fun and joke around, but at the same time, when it's time to play ball and get serious, we do that.
It was great. You sat down on the set and CeCe asked how you're doing. You're like, well, I could have had 4 months off, but I only have 2 months off. It's the burden that comes with playing the very last game of the season. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Embarrassing. So you look around the league now. Last year you came in, you weren't really looking around the league because you were at a different perch than you were this year. Now you come in, you look around. First you're going to look in your division. We're favored to win around the league, but look who's there to beat in your division. Who are you better than in your division? And then in the conference, and then the entire league. So let's start with that. I mean, who are the teams out there that you think, besides yourselves, are going to be tough to contend with?
Well, we better contend with the Cowboys. We better contend with the Redskins. We better contend with the Giants because that's in our division, so we can get in the playoffs.
All three of those teams changed a lot from last year.
Yeah, I noticed the Redskins, piling up their defense.
And changing quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Changing quarterbacks, so, we'll see where that goes. As far as looking at the schedule, I haven't looked. I wish I had it in front of me. But last year for me, what motivated me was our offensive coordinator, Frank Reich, made a list of all the pass rushers I was going against, and it was literally the best. So I knew I had my work cut out, so it didn't matter who we were playing. I knew who I was going against the whole game. So we'll try to make that more of the same, moving forward.
You talk about your offensive coordinator. We know that Frank Reich is going on to be the head coach now with the Colts. People would look at that and been like, wow, I need to watch that. But a guy who very familiar with, Mike Groh, a guy I'm familiar with, I think he's more than capable. Give the football audience a little bit of context as far as who Mike Groh is and what you guys think you can still continue to grow as an offense.
Young, energetic guy. He comes in with a lot of knowledge. Obviously, I think he was there with Alshon for a little bit, so him and Alshon have a close bond. But just his interaction with players, showing that he cares about us, that gets us.
His dad was a coach in the NFL, college coach.
Yeah, so he's been around the game his whole life, and him being around us, he has a colorful personality. But like I said, when it's time to get to business, we get to work, and I think it's just a perfect balance for us.
For you guys, do you feel from talking? I know you guys training camp isn't here yet. You guys have only been together as a team a few times. But do you have a feeling, because so many of your frontline guys, most notably your quarterback, your, I believe, future Hall of Fame left tackle, among some others, Darren Sproles, you mentioned him, who's made an amazing career for himself out of Kansas State when a lot of people thought, guy his size, what is he going to be able to do in the NFL?
Jordan Hicks on the defensive side.
Right. When those guys didn't get to participate in the playoff run, is there a little different mentality than a typical defending champion? Because your quarterback wasn't there, your left tackle wasn't there. Yeah. Those guys have rings, and they helped you guys get there. But I'm sure they feel like not quite the same that you do about what happened last season.
I feel those guys are hungry, and even when they were out, I saw them in the rehab. They were on schedule every day. They're ahead of schedule right now. JP's in there lifting the same weights I'm lifting. Sproles is looking like he's he could take a touchdown back right now. So. And Carson, he's ahead of schedule too. I'm not sure if he'll be there week 1, but I know he's trying to. Those guys are hungry. Those guys are going to drive us. Jordan Hicks, Chris Maragos being out, all those guys are going to drive us moving forward. So, really, when it all comes down to it, it's really about how you approach the game. If you want to look, hey, we got a target on our back, play scared. I'm not about that. And I think, for great teams, you go out there, you attack it each week, week in and week out, and that's how you win.
Plus, you get your quarterback back this year.
Yeah.
It was a tough position for him to be in last year. It took you guys to where you got, and then you had to sit out and watch the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
What's that like to get that little injection going into this season?
It's awesome, especially, he's an MVP-type candidate. Really blossomed his second year. You saw what he can do in the pocket, outside the pocket, making, just extreme plays.
Yeah, we saw what happened outside the pocket.
Yeah.
That's what put him outside.
But just one thing about Carson is how selfless he was. I think he was genuinely proud of Nick and what he'd accomplished. And, you could say, a lot of guys would say the same thing, but I don't think they mean it.
Okay.
But, that's just what kind of guy he is. And, he was behind us the whole way.
And as an offensive line, you talked about you and Jason Peters in the weight room grinding. You start having conversations. Your future franchise quarterback is nicked up going into the season. How much of that are y'all taking it personal to make sure that we keep him clean, make sure that he comes back with confidence, making sure he doesn't get hit? Now, I know we haven't gone through training camp and a lot of that, but you've had conversations about trying to be able to protect the future of the franchise.
The way I see it, it's life and death for me. Hey, you go out there and give a few sacks, you'll be back on the couch watching it on that TV right there. So, moving forward, with our O-line coach, there is no complacency. We go in that meeting room every day. It's fired up, and we know how valuable an asset Carson is. We know the talent that we have, on the offensive line. So, moving forward, we have a job to do, and we know that we have the ability to do it. It's just about being accountable. And Peters is really good about making us all be accountable.
What you just said there is really interesting, because it reminds me of something Chris actually said offhandedly before the show today. Pat Mahomes, the quarterback of the team that I root for, him from Kansas City. He's talked about getting we're going to start a dynasty, me and Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, him and the running back.
Right. Yeah. And so, but Chris mentioned, he was like, man, when I got to the league, my first goal was, I don't want to get knocked out on special teams. Yeah. Second goal was, I cannot go back to my mama's house. I apologize for putting this on television, but I got to stay in the league. For you to say, as top 5 pick of the draft, you're on the second contract, big contract, you're a Super Bowl champion, all-pro. For you to say, man, I'm still fighting for my job, that there's still in the back of my mind, if I play poorly, I'm forget being on these shows, I'm not in the league. That's a remarkable mindset to me.
Yeah, I just think, as starting as a young player, you kind of have big eyes on everything, but as you continue to grow, your confidence grows, and that's how you become the player that you're meant to be. So my confidence is high. It's not arrogant, but I feel like I'm in a position to where I can make a run to get multiple Pro Bowls. I got to be consistent, be accountable. So I feel like I'm in a good spot. And really, I just, I love being a part of Philadelphia. I'm happy where I'm at, and I just feel like we have a lot of success,
Really quick about the Philadelphia part, because Jen and I have spent a lot of time in Philadelphia. Man, how has it been living in Philadelphia as a Super Bowl champion?
You can't go down the street without somebody, hey, man, we appreciate what you've done. It's a good feeling, man. I mean, when we go to the parade and you have guys, pouring their families' ashes on Broad Street, that's how serious we're talking here. So you don't see that, around America too much. So to get that done one time for them, get that, what do you call it, gorilla off your back or whatever.
It was any animal in that zoo.
It was the whole zoo.
It was a blessing, and, hopefully we can get a lot more.
We owe you a belated birthday. You just turned, what, 28?
28.
28 years old.
28.
Tuesday. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Man.
Will you come back and hang out with us?
Yeah,
if they'll let me.
I mean in like 3 minutes after the commercial break. You know what I meant. Thank you. And I love that in Philly they high five. See, guys, the high five is not dead. Stick around. We're going to talk about
Well, the last time they won, high five was in.
Oh, you're funny. That's a funny guy. We're going to talk about the team they beat next on First Things First. Back here with All-Pro Lane Johnson, we're talking Patriots. It started with a Super Bowl loss to your Eagles, Lane. Then rumors whether Gronk would be traded, if Tom Brady would retire, if the Pats would trade up to draft Baker Mayfield. But at the end of the day, it was rumors, it was reports, and it was rumors. Hall of Fame coach Bill Parcells isn't worried, saying, quote, when the season starts, it doesn't mean anything. So, Lane, you know the culture surrounding the Patriots. You've heard everything that happens, I'm sure, and how Bill Belichick runs a very, very tight ship over there. How hard would it be, do you think, playing for that strict Patriots sort of underneath that umbrella compared to the environment you get to play in Philadelphia?
I mean, I've done it in college. Bob Stoops ran a tight ship. When we were there, it was really no horseplay, no playing around, all the business. So I've been there. I've been in both environments. We won. We didn't win the championship, but we won. I can say with Doug, one of his main messages for every game is let your personality show. And I think when you're having fun, you have happy, productive players. Our coaches like to say that a lot. You can win. And my whole deal is that the Patriot way, their formula isn't necessarily how you're supposed to win a Super Bowl. Is that how Pete Carroll won it a different way? Coaches have won it a different way a lot. So what I'm trying to say is, we did it our way, and there's more ways to skin a cat. That's what we say in East Texas. So that's all I was trying to get across.
And go ahead.
I was just saying, just tell me more what your way is. Like, what was that way? It was just being yourself? Like, what kind of ship did Doug run?
When we practice hard. It's serious. It's real serious. But at the same time, we're going to have fun. We're going to joke around. I'm not going to be going to a miserable workplace. I love going to work every day. When we go in that meeting room, we're going to watch film. There's going to be plays where, I get busted up, somebody else gets busted up, we're going to laugh, or you're going to get humbled. Yeah. And I just feel like that just grows everybody closer. Not everybody's walking on eggshells, not everybody's tense. And I just feel like that allows you to be the best version of yourself.
The system that they have in Philadelphia, there's more players. If you're talking about there's 1,700 players can play in the NFL, there's more players that can play under that system that can play under the New England way. Now, I'm just going to tell you, Lane Johnson, if something would happen in Philadelphia, Bill Belichick said, listen, I'm getting ready to move you to left tackle. I'm getting ready to have you, I need you to protect Tom Brady's backside. Lane said, no problem. You give me the right amount of money, I will come up there. I got the right attitude. I'm not saying he wants to leave and everything, because guys can adapt. But more veteran players, and because of what he went through in college with Bob Stoops, you can't tell Lane he can't play in no type of system, but there's just more players that what they do in Philadelphia, it fits more of the football personality compared to what they do in the football laboratory at New England.
I was just thinking it was taken out of context. I didn't have enough words to explain what I'm explaining right now. In college, it was very, routine. If you're late, you get disciplined, and that's how it was. I mean, it's very similar to what New England does, kind of a no BS policy.
Right.
So I've been there. So I've been on both sides, and like you said, as you get older, it's all about being able to adapt.
Listen, no one can argue that the Patriot way hasn't worked for them, but I have seen a lot of different teams try to adapt it. And it has not worked there.
And
I saw the Kansas City Chiefs bring in Scott Pioli, bring in Charlie Weiss. We're going to run the Patriot way, and it blew up on them. I saw Bill O'Brien in Houston for a long time. We're going to run the Patriot way. And it was not successful until, by the way, it looked like it's going to be successful when they got a quarterback. Go ahead, Steve.
And also Tom Coughlin. Tom Coughlin had a way a lot like Belichick. He realized, man, that system is not going to work with these current players. So it works because of Belichick. But the other coaches that have come under them and tried to implement that, it has not worked. And I don't believe that Matt Patricia in Detroit is going to run that same type of system.
And here's the reason that I know people give me a hard time because I picked against you guys basically all year long. You gave me a hard time. Your former teammate Trey Burton gave me a hard time. The Eagles' damn social media account did on the day of your parade.
We'll bury the hatchet. All right.
Okay, appreciate that. If Lane Johnson says we're good, then we're good now.
Yeah, but he said he was burying it in your forehead.
But I really hope you guys have sustained success. And the reason is exactly what you're talking about. It's a copycat league. And the Patriots were the paragon of success in this league for so long that a lot of teams, I think, put a disproportionate impact on the Patriot way, as opposed to a big part of their success is the coach and the quarterback. Like number 12. Like a lot of teams, would Tom Brady be successful under Doug Peterson? I think he probably would. So if you guys have sustained success, then I think teams might say, oh, so this whole idea of having to coach guys up about what they're going to say to the media, not that important. This idea that everything has to be, you bring up college. I don't mind coaches treating college kids a certain way. But when we're talking about grown men, so like I think that way, if you guys succeed, continue to succeed, I should say, it can permeate throughout the league to a degree.
Yeah, I think this game is always evolving. Like you saw Bear Bryant, the Junction Boys. Tougher is better. The first season at A&M, where they go, they almost lost every game. So there's more. There's multiple recipes to success. Is all I'm trying to say. Can we sustain? We'll see. But I think, as far as moving forward, we're going to keep doing us and see where it plays out. It's worked out so far.
Lane, why do you think the Patriots are so successful? They're coming into this year as the favorites in the AFC. They have a quarterback who's 142 years old.
Yeah.
Gronk, who you don't know if he's going to make it through the season. That's kind of about it as far as big-time weapons, and Bill Belichick. And everyone says, well, they're going to win because they always win and the Patriot way, and then they leave it at that. Why are they so good?
Because of the 142-year-old quarterback.
Yeah.
That's why. What I saw in the Super Bowl, what I saw over the years, it doesn't matter how good of a pass rush you have. He's going to get the ball out quick. He's going to take away your strengths. That's what he's been doing his whole career. What I do admire about Tom Brady is he was drafted, 6th or 7th round.
Yep. Came
up to where he is now. I respect that factor about him. And, he's obviously going to go down as one of the greatest of all time. So that's something I could take away from him.
When you talk about Brady, a moment of honesty here. When they get the ball back down 5.
Yeah, I'm thinking what you're thinking.
Which is what?
They're going to go score and win this game.
And that's not an indictment on your defense.
No.
That's about the player.
That's just what I was seeing, the whole game.
And it's the same way that we felt when Joe Montana was playing. All the great quarterbacks, especially those two right there, if they get the ball, because you've seen it so many times on TV, and now you're part of the movie. And you're
I felt like I was in the movie. I was in the movie. So what I felt like. I'm on the bench looking at Brandon Brooks and Kel. So here we go.
Right.
And luckily, Brandon got that strip sack, and they had the Hail Mary that that wasn't good. So it could have, definitely could have went in their favor.
What's the feeling on the strip sack? Because you're feeling what I'm feeling, which is they're going to do it again. These guys are somehow going to do it again, and then you see the ball come out of Brady's hands, and you guys have it.
I'm going nuts. It was like finally there's something is going right for this city, and that's just the whole team felt that.
All right, we got the schedule here. Take a look at this right off the. Is that the Eagles?
Yeah,
schedule
there you go.
There?
I highlighted it.
Is there a matchup on there? Is there a team on there that you think will give you the most trouble?
Or do you focus more on your exact matchup? Because that's what he was saying during the break.
I really focus on my exact matchup.
Also, let's not forget now. He told you he hadn't looked at the schedule. Now, I know we have this big schedule review and everything. Hey, man, the schedule's coming up. Now, we got one of the best linemen in all of football. I told y'all he hadn't looked at it.
Yeah.
So the schedule might be blown a little out of proportion.
That's fair enough, but it's fun for guys that don't actually get to play in the game. Yeah. So I'm into it.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, Atlanta, I'll have Vic Beasley, who was, All-Pro a couple years ago. Tampa Bay, I'll have Jason Pierre-Paul, who I've been playing with the Giants. Indianapolis, not sure. Tennessee, they have Arakpo. Minnesota, they'll have Daniil Hunter. They'll have Everson Griffin. New York Giants, they'll have Olivier Vernon. Not sure
This
who
is
they're
without even. This is looking at it for 8 seconds.
You mentioned
Jacksonville has a very good front. The Rams are going to have a very good front, especially interior. It's going to be a lot of work for the guards.
You're a lot like a wide receiver. He looks at the DBs he's going against.
Yeah, exactly.
But also, it's weird because left tackle, obviously, Lawrence Taylor changed the importance of left tackle position. There's the great book, Blind Side. I get it. But when in today's NFL, we were talking about this off the air, the best rushers are typically left defensive ends. So they're going up against you. Like, you're dealing with the toughest.
It was the change in football. Football realized they're putting the best players, the best athlete at the left tackle. So defensively, they said, we're going to put our best rusher on our left side, who traditionally will be going against a weaker player. That's why Philadelphia went after Lane Johnson and got him to go opposite of Jason Peters.
It seemed like the right side was seen more as a power side back in the early days. But now I'm just saying, you look up at the pass rushers I'm going against, and not just me, it's all the right tackles. It's not easy. And if they think it's easy, come over there and get some of this work. And so that's all I'm trying to say. And that's really it's the truth.
And you want to remake the image of the position to a degree. I don't want to misquote you, but like when we talk about offensive linemen, it's almost like we talk about left tackles and then the rest of the offensive line. Yeah. You hope your play and what you can do can change that to a degree?
I hope so. I just hope people become more educated on what the NFL has evolved to and what the offensive linemen are going through now. It's not just the left side. It's everybody's getting a taste of poison every Sunday, and that's how it is. And it's getting tougher. I mean, these guys are freaks coming off the edge. They have DB-like speed. That's why Von Miller's doing what he's doing. That's why Aaron Donald's doing what he's doing inside. And, it's only getting tougher for us.
It also lets you know the Philadelphia, what they're going to try to duplicate where teams are, well, they're going to put it out there. You got to have 2 great tackles, at least. And typically, most great offensive lines have 3 tackles. They move a tackle into guard. And that's what you see what they have with Peters and Lane Johnson for the Philadelphia Eagles. They have 2 great bookends. There's no left tackle and right tackle for that team.
And one point you've made, I want your opinion on this before you go. You've said a lot, that the way you put it, God made more people that can rush the passer than protect the quarterback.
Yes.
That there are just more, there are more physical freaks out there that can do D-line rushing stuff. You guys got 7 of them on your team, than guys who can do what you do. Do you think that's accurate, that there's just more great D linemen in the league than great offensive?
It's so hard to scout an offensive lineman. You think you have a for sure pick, and then you go and look at these past drafts, and a lot of them are what do you perceive busts. It's hard. It's very hard. And like I was telling him earlier, a lot of what they're doing now is getting ex-tight ends, ex-guys with extreme feet. Some guys are getting basketball. I look at DeMar Dotson with Tampa Bay. He's 6'9", ex-basketball player, has length, has that leverage on these guys, reach, and that's what they're looking for, and that's how the game's evolved.
I'm Jenna Wolf, and thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Make sure to subscribe and tell your friends, family, and coworkers about the podcast, which, by the way, is available on iTunes and all your favorite podcast apps. You can catch a fresh new episode every Monday through Friday on FS1, starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern, 3:30 a.m. Pacific. So long, everyone.